So this is all about my autistic journey. My name is Jordan Day. Oh, that's the very end. You might have to go all the way back. Sorry, no one doing my technical.
You've been very
there we
busy all
go.
day long.
So, a little bit about myself. My name is Jordan Day and I am 22 years old. I'm autistic and I got my diagnosis when I was 12 years old, back when I was a pupil here at Myton School. I work in primary education. As I said, I'm a special educational needs and disability learning support assistant. So I work in a mainstream school looking at ways in which we can support children with additional needs. I coordinate things such as our forest schools provision. I look at things like our sensory provisions for children, supporting with academics, various different bits and pieces that I do in the school. And I'm really passionate about supporting these SEND issues in schools and with children, because I believe if the needs are met, that's when children are going to start to learn, because they feel safe and they feel regulated. And that's really, really important for schools to get right. And I also raise awareness of autism through advocacy work, so work like speaking at some events like this occasionally, working with Act for Autism on their online seminars, written bits for their books, work on Act for Autism films, various bits and pieces. Let's rewind a few years, because you're not born with the label autistic, or you're not born being told you have autism. Quite often when we think about young people who haven't had their diagnosis yet, we see the word anxious. I've tried to find a picture of me anxious here, but I think I'm more up to no good really, I don't know. But we always hear the word anxious. Your child is anxious. Has anyone ever heard that's about a child or someone that they know before their diagnoses? Yeah, I can see a few heads nodding around the room, definitely. Let's dive a little bit further into this. So these are some of the things that were said about me before I got my diagnosis. So, finds changes and transitions challenging, likes to be in control of situations, heightened emotions and appears oversensitive, signs of attachment needs, dislikes loud noises, yet very noisy, struggles to wear certain items of clothing or fabric, very particular about foods eaten, reluctant to go out and play at school, rarely seen interacting with peers in a play setting, and prefers to mix with adults or work alone rather than work with peers, slow to complete work tasks, behaves well at school, but a nightmare at home. Does anyone know why that last point is probably quite important for a lot of people when we talk about the whole anxious thing? Does anyone have any ideas?
Because it's sensory overload, they're kept it together at school.
Absolutely.
Home is haven,
Yeah.
get it all out, cauldron, blow up.
Exactly. Home's that safe place where I used to be able to go home and just release what had been built up all day. And that's a long day to be building up and up and up and up and up. And then you get home, you take the lid off, it's like an eruption. And gosh, it's hard being that person having that eruption, but my God, parents and carers that deal with that on a daily basis, wow, gosh, I know from my experience and looking back now to my childhood how hard that was for my family, but I know that's hard for all of you parents and carers as well. I'm going to show you here a video clip of we talk about, going back to the whole anxious thing, I talk about what we see is just anxious. So here, I've got a video clip from one of our films, and I've edited it slightly, so all you see is the anxious side, which is what a lot of teachers will see in a setting, and what a lot of other people that aren't aware of what's going on will see. Thank you, Luca. You just click it once.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you might have to wiggle the mouse and press the play button.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Luca.
Sorry.
That's all right.
There you go.
So you can see here, there's a teacher working. Looks familiar. Someone sitting in class, just looking around. Everything looks normal, right? Having a bit of a fidget, but they're being told, you need to sit still. Why are they turning round? Why have they left the classroom? Why are they leaving? That's what a lot of people see in people before they get their autism diagnoses. But there's so much more going on under the surface. So let's talk about diagnosis a little bit. So I was diagnosed with autism Asperger's syndrome when I was 12 years old. And that to me meant I was no longer seen as just anxious. There was a reason for these behaviours. People started to see my behaviours as a communication, therefore showing curiosity and trying to understand. They were trying to understand why I behave in a certain way in a certain situation, why I ran out of that lesson, why I was crying over there for something that happened 2 weeks ago. There were so many things that people didn't still understand though, because diagnosis is not a magic wand. It's just the very, very start of the supported journey of being autistic. So I'm now going to show you that video clip again with the sound from the autistic perspective, because this meant, when I got my diagnosis, that people started to look and see and understand my perspective a little bit more by showing a bit of curiosity. Thank you.
I wish there was someone who knew how this felt. Why is the teacher looking at me like that? He's looking at me funny. What will they think if I run out? My ears hurt. Oh, what's that sound? Oh, I've got a headache. My heart's beating so fast. It feels really hot. This is too much.
Wow. Do you see the difference between those two scenes? Almost the same content, but one was from the autistic perspective, but one was from a neurotypical perspective. Really, really interesting. So people started to understand, but some people, like my peers, and other people, like certain teachers, still thought, no, this is just anxious, or this is just something else. People found it very tricky to understand I was autistic because of the stereotypes. When people, back when I was at school, heard the word autism or someone was autistic, they would think of someone who had a very low ability, somebody who wasn't capable of doing things. And I've got another clip here from another Act for Autism film that we made with our wonderful young people talking about how they feel when they hear you don't look autistic. So I'm going to leave it to them to explain. Thank you, Victor.
One of the things we don't like is when people say, you don't look autistic.
You don't look autistic. You don't look autistic.
I'm not different, I just don't talk to people I don't know.
Do I have to be like Captain Marvel? Just go away. Just because I don't look autistic doesn't mean I'm not.
Well, of course I don't look autistic. No one does. It's all about my mind, not my body.
I have the same feelings as you, so stop judging me now.
That is mean. Don't say that to me. That is bullying.
What does autism look like?
Who are you to judge my appearance?
Should I have green skin or something? How would you know what an autistic person would look like?
I know that you often intend it to be a compliment, but it feels like an unintended insult.
I think that clip's really, really important because it shows exactly what a lot of autistic people think when they hear the whole statement of you don't look autistic. And for me, when I was growing up here at school, it was hard hearing that from peers because I was trying to accept something about myself and come to terms with that. But people around me weren't supportive of that journey, which almost inspired me to go on and start writing blogs about my life on the autism spectrum, which then made people start to understand around me. And it was just an incredible feeling, really. So post-diagnosis and post when people started to accept that I was autistic, it meant people started to learn with me. People started to listen and they would connect with me. Without realising, people were using the 3C pathway. Here at Act for Autism, we always talk about this 3C pathway. Connect, calm, communicate. It's such a useful tool to be able to work with so many autistic people, because it's about trying to find a way to really connect and understand and do everything on the terms of the autistic person and make it feel like a safe space for them. And as I got older as well, I realised sometimes people don't get it right, but because I was having safe relationships within this 3C pathway, that meant I understood that, and it was okay that people didn't always get it right. But as I got older, lots of things changed because I started to understand more, and people continued to connect with me, communicate with me, and calm with me. So it meant I got to go on to lots of other opportunities, such as autism advocacy work, working in various SEND settings. I don't just work in a SEND department in a school, I also work with a couple of local charities. I also have supported with other youth groups and various projects all around Warwickshire. It also meant I was starting to understand myself and translate this knowledge, this wealth of knowledge, into supporting young people that I work with at school. And I've been able to put things in place that I wish I had when I was at school. Life as an autistic adult. I put the first slide there of life pre-diagnoses because these things haven't gone away, they're part of me. But I put them much smaller because they're more manageable now, because I've learnt how to deal with some of these challenges because of the support that I've had. It's been really helpful to be able to see my journey with my family and with my friends, because now all my family and friends know these are the things I find hard, so I can preempt some of these things, change some of these things, reduce some of these things to really help me. I now work full time. I still have some additional challenges because the challenges change throughout the journey of life. One of my challenges is sometimes I lack a bit of organisation. Sometimes I'm running late to things, but that doesn't stop me from doing anything. It just means there are things I need some support with, and that's okay, because everyone needs support sometimes, even people who don't have autism. But also, it's meant, as an autistic advocate, I'm someone that's flourished into adulthood, and I go about my life just like any other person who's neurotypical, who doesn't have autism. And I think that's really important to notice, is just how normal, and I think there's no definition of normal, but it is normal, if that makes sense, because there is no definition of normal. Everyone's normal. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. So, to finish up, I just wanted to talk about a little bit, how can you use the 3C pathway? Because the 3C pathway is a fundamental starting point with anybody who is autistic. You can't just go in with your expectation. You've got to create a clear, safe space. That's really, really important. A time where there's no expectations. A time where it's safe and still. A time where there's no words, no movement, no jobs, no tasks. Just still. That's when you can find your way to connect. Connection doesn't have to be through words. Through body language, it could be. It could be through anything, just sitting next to someone, just looking at what they're looking at, showing an interest. There's so many different ways of connecting. Then when you connect, it's about staying calm and present, almost demonstrating a bit of mindfulness here. That's really important when you're calm, because that keeps the connection, and it keeps the connection positive. If you change to being more chaotic or bring some energy in, you'll either break the connection or you'll make it very, very wobbly. When you've done those things, that's when you can go in with your communication and be clear with your communication. Be calm with your communication. I'm now going to hand over to some of our autistic advocates at Act for Autism to explain these 3 things that they like. Thank you, Luca.
Here are some things that can help.
We need to feel connected. You need to understand that connecting with us doesn't always mean talking face to face, physical reassurance, or even phone calls.
Be friendly by learning to understand how we feel.
To be nice and kind and understand my feelings.
Give me time. I might need some space.
If you're calm, and I can see that you're calm, that makes me calm. Break things down into small chunks and use less words.
Let me use my coping mechanisms to help me calm down, and don't judge them, even if they are a little bit weird.
Let me play John's one way life and just let it be.
Talk to us in a calm way like we're in a general conversation. Do not shout and talk to us in an angry, annoyed or demanding tone of voice.
Let me decide for myself. They're my choices, not yours.
Don't overdo it. Be natural. It might seem like you're faking it.
It's important how you communicate with us. Say what you mean and don't use jargon to confuse us.
Brilliant. I think there's some really important messages from there to take away about connecting, calming and communicating. And that's the end of my presentation, just a little glimpse into my autistic journey and how you can support someone using the 3C pathway. Thank you very much.